In a limitless realm of imagination where galaxies and futuristic worlds converge, welcome to the Rushmore Show. Today, journey through cosmic wonders as we explore the greatest sci-fi films. Prepare to be awestruck. Our esteemed guests arrive from diverse universes, armed with their top 4 science fiction movies. First, guest number 1, master of monster movies, brings colossal creatures, lonely robots, extraterrestrial encounters, and chaotic invasions. Next, guest 2 mesmerizes with an iconic monster, a sprawling metropolis, a cosmic love affair, and otherworldly conflict. Delve into epic space operas with guest number 3, exploring an epic saga, mind-bending reality, unstopping forces, and thrilling prehistoric adventure. Guest number 4 invites you to the farthest reaches of the galaxy in a spacefaring quest, Earth's defending agency, terrifying extraterrestrial encounters, and futuristic dreams intertwined with DNA. But the journey continues. Share your top 4 science fiction movies in the comments. Will they match our guest picks or take us to a new interstellar voyage? Embark on the extraordinary voyage through the sci-fi universe as we uncover the world's greatest films. The Rushmore Show awaits your input.
Welcome to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more. Kirk, may the blockbuster be with you is coming to an end now, but look, it doesn't mean that it's getting any less exciting. This is a great day. We've had a great month, a lot of fun guests on Dennis last week, talking about animated movies. I've watched so many animated movies in this last week now because it's
I basically watched all of our lists, at least a portion, bits and pieces.
You texted me that you had actually finally watched James and the Giant Peach, which is cool.
Well, I had already seen it, but I had to go back and watch, and that was a great site. So let me just bring this up. If you haven't seen it already, you must go check out the Randy Newman rendition of mine. The second thing is, what inspired that was the fact that not only is Toy Story Randy Newman, James and the Giant Peach is Randy Newman, Monsters Inc. was Randy Newman, all 4 Toy Stories were Randy Newman. He's done like 17 cartoon movies. Like when I was pulling it up to try and get inspiration, it was all over the place, and I thought it was pretty funny. And then Andy closes us out at the end with a little Randy Newman rendition as well. So I mean, that was fun. But man, may the blockbuster be with you is fantastic name, because 1, it's about movies, and 2, Star Wars. So this month is going to be this week is the last of this month, and it's science fiction movies, which I'm rocking a little Vader. Maybe show my cards a little bit, but we're going to do top 4 science fiction movies. Andy, action movies isn't really in your realm, but we nailed it. We did a great job. How is science fiction?
I absolutely love sci-fi.
Yes.
And to me, and this will probably sprinkle throughout my list today, and hopefully some other lists, that what I love about sci-fi is that you can get the movies that are like super serious or whatever. You can get those and they're fantastic, but the horrible, campy, terribly acted, horrible plot sci-fi almost is better. Like, I'm literally the Sci-Fi Channel talking about like Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus. I love that stuff. It's so bad. I get it. I know it's terrible, but it's like that. It's so bad it's good. And I'll talk about some of that today. Not that movie. Spoiler alert. That's not going to make my list. But there's some other ones that are super fun in there. But sci-fi, man, I grew up loving watching movies and stuff with my dad, and one of our favorite things to do, and I always wished that I was
Hello,
like
Daphne.
Oh, do you hear her? Yeah, that's where we're at right now. One of my favorite things to watch with my dad was Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes,
And
sir.
I watch all movies like I'm in that. Like I just make comments and stuff throughout, and it's
I mean,
just
that's
one of
kind of what this whole month is.
yeah,
Mystery
right,
Science
basically.
Theater at one level or another. Yeah,
So
that's great.
anyway,
Look, I'll be honest. I love the campy ones. They're not going to make my list today. There are just too many BA top of the line science fiction, special effects, storylines that it would be really hard to eliminate some of the big dogs. And yeah, I don't know. Mine might just be a boring list because most of mine live somewhere in most people's top. And but I know that our guests that we have today, and there's a good segue, our guests today are really, really enthralled in this type of movie. And I don't think we should leave them off the hook too long because I think they're ready to give us their lists. So I want to welcome them on. So let's get ready to do our top 4 science fiction movies. Let's get it. Welcome back to the Rushmore Show, and it is time for our top 4 science fiction movies. Andy, we're bringing on one of our favorite guests, one of the first set of podcast YouTubers that we welcomed on, and it kind of helped us kind of jump into meeting all kinds of other amazing people. But these are some old friends that I met at a conference. We're going to welcome on our friends from Geek Devotions and Gundam, and there's like 17 podcasts that they have. Midweek move, whatever they'll let them introduce it all. But we're going to welcome back Geek Devotions with Dallas and Celeste Mora. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello. How's it going?
How are you guys? So last time we had you on the show, it was this time last year, and you guys helped us out with Marvel, right? Was it Marvel characters? Yeah, I think it was Marvel characters. And
I believe so.
Oh yeah, because you brought on the Batman Wolverine, right?
Yep.
And I think Celeste may have shown some of her cards for today and that day. But if you go back and watch that, you might be able to catch some of those things. But welcome to the show, man. What's going on in the life of Geek Devotions? Where can they find you? What is what's this month all about? I saw you posted your schedule. It looks like you guys are busy filming. And so I'm just thankful that we can cut out a slice of your life, new jobs and everything else. Tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, well, Geek Devotions, we've been rocking and rolling. For those who don't know, we're the show from Devoted Geeks. Are devoted to letting people know they're loved, and that's our whole thing. Is everything we do is designed to let people know they're loved. Through mainly our Friday podcast that we do, our Friday YouTube show that we do, but we also have other various podcasts we do. We do podcasts about Mobile Suit Gundam. We do terrible movies, The Bottom Shelf, which some of Andrews might make it on one day.
He has mentioned The Bottom Shelf several times in the last few weeks and saying, I think
Bottom Shelf, man. It's so
I think
good.
Dallas might want this one on the show. and look, speaking of that, we're available for a Bottom Shelf. I'm not very good at Bottom Shelf, though. I mentioned it in our little text. There's not a whole lot of movies that I find terrible. Even the terrible ones I enjoy at some level or another.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you.
I live on the Bottom Shelf.
Conversation.
So Celeste, man, you're doing a big move. You got a new job. How's everything going with you and your podcast, right?
So we have several different podcasts that we're a part of that are not all Geek Devotions, but we do have the We Read Allegedly, which comes out this month, where we talk about books. I'm the resident fan. So
Nice.
It's interesting getting people who don't like YA fiction, or for those who don't know, young adult fiction, to talk about.
I love YA fiction, to be honest. Yeah, that's my go-to. It's my favorite.
Relaxing, because like it's meant for teenagers, so there's not a lot to it. So I'm also part of a podcast which is not part of Geek Devotions, but it's still part of us, the Moras. called Playing Games with Strangers, where we are an actual play podcast. And I just started a new job where I am running the monogramming room at a local business.
Nice. And it's closer and it's better pay. And that means that you guys have more time to do all this amazing stuff that you're doing.
Actually, see each other.
Yeah, and then look, one of my favorite things, guys, is watching the drive-in when you guys drive actually to work.
Our morning geek commute.
That's just another little thing that you guys do, right?
Yeah.
The morning commute.
I love that. I love that. I wish I could think, I think about like we do the Rushmore show and I'm like, how do I add more? I don't know how I do it. So hats off to you guys to do that many of them. I'm like, this is a lot as it is. So awesome. You guys are fantastic. We love.
And they're a part of the Retro Rebind podcast and all the culture box things that they're doing, right? And they serve at the church and do the midweek move and all that they're doing. They're busy fellas.
And at one point they sleep, I think, right? Is there ever that?
All right, Celeste, tell us your criteria today. So basically, what were you thinking when you were trying to put together a list? And then let's jump into Rosie, your number 4.
So mine are not in any necessarily specific order, much like Andy said in our mutual chat that he was just gonna these are not like his 1 to 4 favorites, they're just his favorites. Because I love sci-fi. So when I came into this, I was looking at it as science fiction. So no Star Wars, because it's a space opera. No Dune, also a space opera. No Firefly, which most people will think is very shocking for me because I'm a big Firefly fan, but it is more science fantasy than it is science fiction. So that's how I kind of came at it, just strict. This is science fiction.
I feel that.
So my first one is going to be Men in Black.
Yes. Nice.
A solid one.
That's so solid. Tell us why you like that movie.
It is a fun movie. I love Will Smith and I love Tommy Lee Jones and just the goofiness of Will Smith and the seriousness of Tommy Lee Jones.
Situation's under control. Calm down, please. Give me your attention for a moment. I'll be glad to tell you what happened. This is called a neuralizer. It's a gift from some friends from out of town. This red eye here will isolate the electronic impulses in your brains, more specifically the ones for memory. Oh, that's good, fellas. Give me a splay burn around the perimeter with holes at 40, 60, and 80 meters from right here. Thank you. That's good. Thank you.
What in the hell is going on?
Excellent question. And the answer you're looking for lies right here.
Who are you? Really?
Really? I am just a figment of your imagination. Damn, what a gullible breed. I'm serious, fellas. You're lucky to be alive after a blast like that.
What blast?
The underground gas main, genius. You fellas need to exercise a lot more caution before discharging your firearms. I'll tell you that right now. Especially you. Have yourselves checked out with EMS on the other side of the hill.
Is hysterical. That is one of those of it is a franchise I will watch no matter if I think the movie's actually going to be good because I just love the franchise itself. I even watched International.
She claimed that one.
Is that bottom shelf? Is that bottom shelf material?
That might be.
Be a middle shelf.
Being generous. That's being generous.
They get the side table.
I'm a big fan of this. I'm just going to tell you right now, that comes right off. Men in Black comes right off of my Benjamins. That's my number 5. So you've taken it off of my Benjamins. Got to eliminate it for later. But I was fighting to get it on there. I just listen. I mean, Will Smith. We all know everything he touches. I mean, it's just all good stuff. Even when he slapped Chris Rock, like that is
everything he touches.
Everything he touches, even considering like everything's good. Just keep his wife's name out of your mouth. But like Tommy Lee Jones.
Why don't you show him the imports, Jeeps?
Hey, Kay. How are you?
Show him the imports right now.
I got out of that business a long time ago.
Why do you lie to me, Jeeves? I hate it when you lie.
Just hold on a second.
I'm gonna count to 3.
He'll do it, Jeeves.
1.
I'm telling you, that man does not look stable.
2.
But you know what? Talk to me. He is just crazy when he's like this.
He's always crazy. Why don't you get a massage? Take a cruise.
Drop the weapon and put your hands on your head.
I warned him.
Drop the weapon!
You warned him.
Don't make me kill you.
You insensitive prick. You have any idea how much that stings?
Might be one of my favorite. Again, I'm not putting him top 4 actors. Okay, spoiler alert later, but he's definitely a Benjamin. He's up there. A lot of things that he does, I love those movies. So Men in Black is great. One of my favorite scenes of the whole movie is when they're picking out the guns, right? And they give Will Smith's character like the tiniest gun or whatever. He's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And he shoots it and he flies back like 200 yards into a car. It's funny. It's science fiction. It mixes humor and everything together. And you guys know throughout the month I've tried to mix humor into all of my picks this month. So great pick.
I think it's a fantastic pick. Honestly, I was thinking you were stealing a Crushmore with Andy because this is usually where he lies. He lies in comedy. And I was trying to think of good enough comedy science fiction that he would have. But he might have some not good enough science fiction comedy coming up soon. So that's a great pick. I love it. Love it. It is a Benjamin for me. So for you guys that are maybe new to the show, that means we can't pick this in the honorable mention side of things, obviously. And so Dallas, you're up, man. So tell us about maybe what you were thinking and give us your Rosie.
So this is hard because I love sci-fi also. And I decided to go with the stuff that like it impacted me in some fashion. Because it's hard just to pick, these are the top 4 because some like there are movies that I love that I know are terrible. Hence why I do the Bottom Shelf podcast. There are a lot of movies. There's a lot of movies that aren't that way. And so my list is a lot of movies that have impacted and made me appreciate sci-fi in different ways. And so my first one is one that I saw years ago. I actually saw a sequel of it first on Mystery Science Theater 3000. And my first one is Gojira from 1954. I love this movie so much, from the cinematography to, again, it's the 50s, but there's so many practical effects and the storytelling. And then when you get into the sociological conversation that takes place within the movie, it's just a fantastic film, in my opinion.
Lot to it.
I'm a big fan of this. How many Godzilla movies are there? Have you kept count?
There's a lot. I have all the Showa era movies, which is like 20 movies, I think, 15 movies. But there's a lot over the years.
Do you guys remember? I know you remember the cartoon back.
Yes.
And his little brother or whatever it was. So Godzilla is a fantastic pick.
So I love Godzilla, and I love everything about kaijus and all the large beasts that have, come on the silver screen. Obviously, I think Godzilla is probably the stereotypical big monster movie. They've done video games, they've done books, they've done comics, it is one of the most classic toys in the history of toys, right? And so and then you get to talking about other things, like even bending into children's television, like Power Rangers and Voltron and other animes and yada yada yada.
Yeah,
I love this pick, but I will say this: I was never into Godzilla. I just wasn't, and I don't know why. I don't know if I just didn't have access to it. But I always saw my friends that like Godzilla, and I was like, I want to like that too. I've never seen that. and so I guess maybe it was about 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I just started watching them. I was just like, I'm going to watch all of these or try and watch several. I guess it was probably when the new ones started probably popping back in, and King Kong and all that. And I was like, I'm going to go back and watch the other ones. And man, they are really ahead of their time. And then I love like watching the like the making of, and like seeing all the little small cities and them smashing them and stuff like that. It's kind of fascinating, to be honest. Now, do you like any of the new ones?
Yeah, I enjoy a lot of the new ones. I like the Legendary series, which is the ones that we did here stateside. I like, there was one that they did. It was supposed to be a reboot called Shin Godzilla, and it was really fascinating. And basically, Japan has just abandoned that project. And the rumor is, I'm hearing that they're going to, after the contracts for the Legendary series are completely done, do another reboot. But yeah, I do like the newer ones.
I feel like they're going to reboot that until they can not tap it out anymore.
It's such a cultural thing, you know what I'm saying? It's like the equivalent of doing Cowboys for us here in the States. It's just something that makes sense for them to grab hold.
That's a good way of looking at it. Andy, where are you at? Because it's time to throw in the old wrench.
So criteria wise, let me just say this. I am not nearly as educated as our guests are today when it comes to this. I don't split hairs on what's sci-fi and what's, space drama. I mean, listen, if it's deals with some technology science-ish thing and it's not real, it's science fiction. That's what we're going to call it today. That's literally, like, I would say simple, but I would say they're all considered sci-fi movies. So, I mean, we'll say that. Now my criteria, it's one of those ones where it's just like, I liked this movie, like there was a certain, and we touched on it before. Some of these movies were not very well received. We'll just keep that. But for me, based on like a time that it came out, like where I was, what I remember, this really kind of like helped me really enjoy this genre of movie, right? And again, looking back at it, sometimes you watch these, they're not the best movies, right?
Yeah.
But just something about it that's so hard to define, like why I like this. And I'm going to go ahead and start with my Rosie, and it's sort of a Rushmore with Dallas, because there's 9,000 to choose from, right? And this may be the last one that anyone goes to, but it just, for me, I'm talking Matthew Broderick's 1998 Godzilla. Now follow me. Listen, it's so departed from the original, like what Godzilla was about, and I get that, and that's really kind of where it catches its slack and everything. But dude, P. Diddy and Jimmy Page.
Now that's the crowning achievement from this movie. Kashmir.
That's Celeste's favorite Godzilla film.
Really? No way it is.
I feel validated.
I don't know if you should be proud that I've chosen this, because I have a weird track record when it comes to picking movies, but it's okay. We're still together on this. Matthew Broderick, Hank Azaria, Harry Shearer. I mean, it's a really cool cast here. I like the whole like Godzilla's laying eggs all through or whatever, and they're trying to like stop this. I mean, because obviously, can you imagine, multiple, like just craziness. And again, it departs from things, but put myself back in 1998. Okay. I personally am like 9 years old at this time, right? And like I watched these classic Godzillas with my dad. My dad's a Godzilla fan, and I love all of those, right? But it was me watching this, and then I discovered all the other stuff, right? So this was kind of like my first exposure to Godzilla, and then I got to see all these other stuff. It's the classic, Godzilla screech, that's just that awesome sound. It really just launched that for me. So this movie, again, looking back at it, is not going to be the best Godzilla movie ever. I totally get that. I understand. And it's probably bottom shelf, like, one of those things there.
Hot for it not to be.
Yeah, well, there you go. So but I just there's something about this movie. I just love this.
I'm shocked times two now because you actually pulled one out. But I was going to ask Dallas how he felt about this movie when I was like, hey, what about the new ones? And I'm sure he just automatically leapfrogged that one and went to the newer ones.
To be fair, that was like 1998, man. That's not, I don't know if you caught this, but 1998 is no longer new.
Yeah. Well, like newer ones, right? Yeah. But I can dig this movie. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's one of those that I'll watch and be like, yeah, I'm okay with it. I really liked seeing Godzilla, the new special effects. I liked seeing, you mentioned the eggs and everything, but I love Matthew Broderick. I do.
Yes.
And I mean, he's Simba, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, he's amazing. I do like him a lot.
De-escalators! Hurry!
Other things that I jumped to before I jumped to Simba, but I mean, I know he is.
Paris, we had animated movies last week, and we were talking. I just got done editing.
It's in the head. It's there. Let me ask you this.
Ferris Bueller.
We've had Ferris on plenty times. Yeah.
Celeste, what do you call this Godzilla?
Ferris Bueller, the big lizard.
Yeah.
Ferris Bueller, the big lizard.
Now, let me ask you, have you guys seen the animated series that continued the movie?
Yes,
I
have.
It came on Fox, and it was right after the movie. It's so much better.
It's kind of slapsticky, like it's kind of like not serious, right?
No,
like,
it's kind of in the middle. I mean, it was a Fox morning. It was so good though. Like it was legitimately like people watched the series,
like Ghostbusters,
kind of Ghostbusters, or like the Men in Black series.
Yeah.
Dude, this is core memory. I'm looking it up right now.
Unlocked memory for him.
What in the world? How long is this?
You're using your science fiction and unlocking the.
He is in the Matrix.
Yes.
Our buddy, a buddy of ours named Kevin, who's the Dapper Man. He actually gave us the entire series on DVD for that.
Let me jump into mine. I'm kind of right in the middle of everybody. I think like I said, most of mine are going to be nothing shocking. There's nothing shocking here. I've mentioned most of mine in previous shows. Some even the shows mightily recently. I just couldn't figure if I had them on a mountain somewhere else, why they wouldn't be on the mountain for this. But this might be, next to cartoons series, my longest set of Benjamins. It just goes on and on and on, hoping that, knowing my guest who we had on, that many might be taken down the road. But look, I am going, and again, I agree a little bit with you, Andy. Science, it's not real. Science fiction, yeah. But anyways, let me jump into my first one. My first one is, I'm going 1991, James Cameron, sequel, Terminator 2.
Let's go.
Coming in strong. T2, man, what a groundbreaking movie. Terminator 1 could be on a mountain. I love it. It's... It's very nostalgic for me. I remember it's one of the first kind of science fiction movies that I watched. Love Arnold Schwarzenegger and all that he did. But then coming back and kind of flipping the script and having the T-1000 chase the T-800 and doing all that. And then it's gone on to do 3 or 4 or 5 other films. And it's had The Woman now and all kinds of other things. But this one is the one that broke the mold. Right, you have the shape-shifting T-1000. That special effects, I remember like being in awe. Not just me, but like the theaters and in the Siskel and Ebert and everybody that really gave a darn about movies were like, this is crazy. And James Cameron's gone on to do tons of other stuff, but this put him in the conversation. This solidified Arnold to me as one of the best ever action heroes, which we had him a couple weeks ago, not too long ago. But yeah, Terminator 2 for me is when I think of science fiction, you're talking about, so the premise of the plot, which is kind of similar to the first one. There are Terminators or cybernetic robot situations in the future that are taking over. And then you got Sarah Connor, who's going to lead the resistance against them. And they decide to come back in time and try and kill Sarah prior to them having her son. And then in this version, basically the son's born, and the same Terminator that's coming back has been reprogrammed to protect and be on the other side. It's just a fantastic movie, and I couldn't have a mountain without it. It's probably the one that I haven't mentioned yet this year. I mean, aside from when I talked about Arnold. So that's going to be my Rosie. What do you guys think about that?
I love that option so much. It almost made my list.
So a Benjamin for you, Dallas, Celeste.
That's a solid pick. I contemplated doing the Terminator movies. I opted for others in my Benjamins and in my Rushmores. But Dallas and I binge watched the entire series in a weekend.
Yeah, I haven't seen the newest one, the last, the dark. No, wait, that's I can't remember the
Dark Phoenix.
Different series.
No, it's called. So it was Genesis was the third one, right? Genesis was the third one. You're out of it.
Maybe.
What's that?
Dark Fate.
There you go.
Fate.
It was dark something.
I love this pick, and I love that you went T2. I think that this is, again, Terminator, that's where it all started. Like, there's no knocking that. But if I'm doing the T2 is definitely better. A couple things about it.
It is probably on the Rushmore of sequel.
Right. So I'm wearing the Sermonator. It's like the cheesiest shirt. Somebody at church bought it for me. They're like, you preach and you like that.
Aren't those the best though? The cheesy shirts that somebody at church thinks you need to have.
You talk about the special effects. I don't know why, and maybe it's just because I'm a 90s kid. Like, I always go to like the special effects make me think of the Capri Sun commercials from the 90s. Yes. I don't know why, like every time, and it's really cool, but I can't not see the cheesy like commercials for Capri Sun. It's a great movie for every reason that you said. Arnold, that's all you got to say. Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's fantastic.
He has impacted me so much. Every time I'm like in a place where like there's bars, we have there's a gated area around our kids' wing for where the playground is, and I sit there going, I wonder if I can walk through this.
Oh, love that.
No, have you guys ever played the Nintendo game, the NES Terminator T2 game?
Yeah, I have.
That was ridiculously hard, especially
hard.
Like
and
the first
of T2, the game, the arcade game was one of the best shooters in the whole room.
My sister and I played the mess out of that on Sega Genesis, the shooter. But the NES one, it made no sense because you play the first round and like you get to the boss of the first level, and it's the bar fight scene.
Right.
Tell me why Arnold is like 2 inches tall on your screen, and then the boss, who Arnold clearly just eliminates easily in the movie, it takes up the entire stinking screen. It is the word. I'm like, what is happening here?
Andy,
it's perspective. You're seeing it.
Did you play this game, Andy?
Yes, for sure. And difficult. One of the craziest scenes in T2 is the nuclear explosion.
Yes.
It's crazy. Like,
That's the thing.
skeleton and like, what in the world has happened? Dude, I remember watching that like first time, like, whoa, this is crazy.
I love the meme that comes out.
Let's jump into TJ Jazzy Jeff. Celeste, you're back on deck. You're up. And well, I guess you're up. And Dallas, you're on deck, technically. So Celeste, where are you going?
So I'm gonna go for a complete tonal shift with the next one, and say Gattaca.
Gattaca, dude.
You took my Benji.
Yes, this is a great movie.
You knew that was on my Rushmore.
I did. That's why it's not on mine.
That's not fair because you guys kind of know what y'all are thinking. So Celeste, tell us about Gattaca for those.
Only I don't have 20 or 30 years left in mine. Mine is already 10,000 beats overdue.
It's not possible.
You are the authority on what is not possible. Aren't you, Irene? They have got you looking so hard for any flaw that after a while, that's all that you see. For whatever it's worth, I'm here to tell you that it is possible.
Gattaca is it's a post-apocalyptical, because that's a word. I've been watching too much Muppets.
Post-apocalyptic.
A post-apocalyptic movie where the world has basically created humans that are it's almost like the designer baby theories. Right. And so if you are not someone who has all of these attributes, like if your parents couldn't afford to pay for you to have this before you were born, you can't do certain things. You don't qualify for certain jobs. And it follows a guy, Ethan Hawke.
Training Day.
Who I constantly confuse with Christian Bale, and it confuses me.
I can see that.
Like a young Christian Bale, young Ethan Hawke, they look similar. Anyway,
they're just white guys.
just fair. It's fair.
Kevin Bacon.
I can see Kevin Bacon, really.
It's about a guy who basically it's an identity theft, but it's acceptable identity theft because he's being allowed to take it. The person who had the identity that he has taken had a accident or something where he can't do what he needs to do, so he started a new job with a new face, and it's this other person who wants to travel to space, and it's a very slow but very good movie. It's very thought-provoking. It makes you think about all of these things, and I think that's a good mark of science fiction is it makes you think. Like, they're telling these fantastical stories, but they're using it for real world situations. Like, we just had recently someone who spliced in DNA to fix a genetic trait with their baby. And everyone's freaking out because they're like, this is going to lead to designer babies.
Yeah.
Because this might actually happen. Now, will it happen to that extent? I doubt it. But it's still a conversation that actually needs to be had.
Yeah.
So if I remember, it wasn't he like, I don't remember how he was told this or whatever, or how he remembered, but he had he was kind of going on a darker path, or like a death or was coming up or something. And then didn't he like purchase didn't he like buy like somebody else's life, basically? Isn't that kind of how it went?
Well, what happened was the Ethan Hawke's character, he was a mostly perfectly normal kid, but he had some genetic issues. Then Jude Law, he was the like designer guy, but he got into an accident, but he didn't want to lose his lifestyle. And so he's like, hey, you just pretend to be me. And Ethan Hawke's dream was to go to space. And that was like, you couldn't travel space if you had any problems.
Uma Thurman was in this too, wasn't she?
Thurman.
Yep. Well, it was interesting. Sorry, go on.
I'm just going to tell you now, this is a blind spot for me. I have not seen this one.
Oh, man.
Cultured swine.
Hey, Ham, look, I'm Picasso.
I don't get it.
You uncultured swine. What are you looking at, you hockey puck?
Don't do that. We don't gatekeep here.
It does look interesting. I do like Uma Thurman a lot. Mostly because I really love Kill Bill. But
Which you had a couple weeks ago.
and Poison Ivy. We're talking
Oh
about
no.
bottom shelf.
About bottom shelf
I
for
think
sure.
that's one of the ones you brought up for bottom shelf.
But
Nice.
all that I know is that Google tells me that this movie is futuristic, suspenseful, and thought-provoking. So that's what I can add to it.
Yeah.
So
Well, the
You guys-
director,
It's the science
Andrew,
fiction mold.
yeah, Andrew Nicole, who's the guy who did it. This is the kind of movies he does. He did the In Time movie where everything is purchased with Lifetime, and then he did the Truman Show also.
I love that movie.
Okay.
So his whole thing
Truman
is like
Show.
these thought provoke, society question type of things.
So Dallas, you're up.
All right, so for my Jazzy Jeff, it is going to be an interesting one. It is, and for the hardcore sci-fi guys, they're not going to be happy with me that I'm choosing this over something. But it's a movie called Metropolis, which is an anime adaptation of a classic silent film called Metropolis. And this one was done. It was originally a manga done by Osamu Tezuka, who is the godfather of anime. And so I already have a lot of love for just that aspect of it. And there was the guy who did it. I think his name was Rintaro. He's like, yeah, Tezuka would not let me do this if he was alive because it was kind of a baby project for him. But it is a beautiful story, in my opinion, about a society that has risen and is building basically their kind of their own Tower of Babel. And there's a girl who is a robot girl who is kind of meant to be like the crowning piece of it all. And it goes into like all these like really deep conversations about society and class, like class culture and everything like that, like where people belong, where they don't belong, and really interesting aspect of it. The scene that always catches me is at the very end when literally everything is falling apart, and Ray Charles is the score of it, one of his songs. And it's this really
Ray Charles was in it as an anime.
no, but one of his songs is the score of it. And it's this really interesting contrast of the destruction and this beautiful song he has.
I can't stop loving you. I've made up my mind to live in memory of the lonesome time.
And it's a beautiful movie, and I love it to death. Like, it's a great film. I've watched it so many times. When I worked at Hollywood Video, it was one of the first movies I bought that we had.
There's a throwback Hollywood Video.
I have not seen. I know the movie. Matter of fact, when I pulled up top 100 sci-fi movies, blah blah blah, this one's on almost every list, and it's a blind spot for me in the fact that I just haven't seen it. I know the movie.
Right.
And I remember the art of the building. There, like I remember seeing that building. But there was a time in my life where it's kind of going back to the Godzilla thing. I really wanted to be in anime, and I never had an option to see this one. I've seen a bunch of other animes around that time, but I have not seen this one, and the fact that you're bringing it up is like reminding me that I probably want to watch it.
It's a solid one, especially if it's a movie, so it's a one shot. There's not a lot of world you have to get into.
Now, you talked about the different levels of society. So how does that play in this? Does that have to do with where they're living?
Yeah, basically, like the society. It's kind of a Tower of Babel type of situation going on, and you have the aristocrats who live in the upper echelons of the society.
I was wondering if it's like that. Have you ever seen the movie Tower?
Yeah.
Is it like that?
Kind of similar to that, but it's all based off of the original. Now, Tezuka would have said that he never watched the original Metropolis. And he just saw the poster for Metropolis and created everything. But you're like, this is pretty similar there, Osamu. But but it's the original film Metropolis, which was done back. It's a black and white film. It's like the original sci-fi film. It's like a 3-hour German silent film, and it a lot of your movies today that have that whole conversation about classism, they are pulling from this movie in some fashion.
I haven't seen this one, but I'm looking it up as you're doing this. One thing that this brings to my thought now, and this is kind of a side conversation. I did bring it up last week when we talked about animated movies, and we talked about in my Benjamin Spirited Away, which is by and large considered one of the greatest to, when you type in top anime movies, it's up there, right?
Right.
So I really appreciate it. I know that when I was growing up, I just had this false concept that anime was just like Dragon Ball Z, and that was it. You know what I mean? Like that was everything that there was. And when I like growing up, I like realizing all these really like beautiful movies that are done in this anime style. It's just awesome, including Spirited Away. And I haven't seen this one, but I'm just looking through just the animation of it. Looks really cool. It's very interesting.
Andy, where you at, man?
All right, so moving to my TJ Jazzy Jeff. This is out of all my movies the newest movie that I'll put out there, although it's still 15 years old now. So 2008 is when this one came out, and this is a fun one, man. And it's unsuspecting. Like you don't think that it's going to be this deep of a movie, like some of the themes that it talks about and it explores. But I'm going. We're going to go Pixar, man. We're going to go Wall-E, man. Wall-E.
Oh, wow.
I love this movie. And
Sweet
so
movie.
story real quick. I taught computer lab for like 6 years to sixth graders, and every year at the end of the year when they're doing leap testing, we have nothing to do, so we watch movies.
Right.
And this is one of those movies that I put on there that if my principal came in, I'm like, yeah, it's technology, it's future, it's all that. It counts, right? Not that he didn't really care. But this movie, like the whole concept of like, there's this one robot who's cleaning up the earth. It's kind of this post-apocalyptic thing where they've ruined Earth, and he's just picking up trash, right? I mean, that's literally all this robot does. Finds this other robot, and hey, look, Sigourney Weaver in here, is a voice in this movie as well. So there's actually a pretty cool cast. John Ratzenberger, Jeff Garlin. We know we love Jeff Garlin here. Fred Willard's in the, a lot of cool voices. But this whole idea of how like humans have left Earth, and this is like the year 22 something, whatever, and they've all become so dependent on technology to the point where just nobody can survive, right? Like they're literally in, and this whole fear and you kind of it's painted to look cool on the outside, like all of this awesome stuff, but on the there's this greed factor where they're not wanting people to return to Earth because of all this. It's by and large is the company anyway, but it really like is unassuming, and like you think that it's like, oh, this is just this cool movie, and then you start thinking about it, you're like, goodness, how close are we to what Wall-E was talking about? Dependence on technology. And again, technology is a great thing, right? Like we wouldn't be able to do like the things that we're doing without this technology. But it's like, where do you draw the line in using technology in a good way, in a moral way, in an ethical way, or overusing it? And there's just kind of that fine line, and then the slippery slope happens, and we're all going to get to the point in the year 2200 when we're and the axiom like in Wall-E. But yeah, cool movie. I love the Wall-E voice. Wall-E, like it's just it's really cool. It's a really cool movie, man, and it's like it makes you really love this little robot that outside of Wall-E, like you don't really. It's just cool, how they do it, the animation, the storytelling. It's just a really cool movie.
And tell you what I love the most.
Is it sci-fi? Yeah, sure, maybe it is. But.
Yeah. Well, first off, I didn't add any cartoons. That's 2 back to back because of our last week we did animated movies, and I was like, I might actually have an animated movie. Anyways, but going from that, one of my favorite themes about this movie is that all the people are fat and overweight and just like can't get around, and they need all the robots to do whatever. And it's just like, it's kind of like making fun of the society that we've got, that we're going towards, right? and then you see these robots like fall in love, and then just the little spark, and he's gonna take care of the little green plant, and it you start to fall in love with this like dumb box of a robot. I mean, like it really, and it is a fascinating movie. I love like these. This is when, to me, when I think people just go out of their way to make a good script, and then they made a movie with it, and I think it's a phenomenal choice, and I think it does have a lot of really sharp themes that could come to play, honestly. So yeah, I like it a lot.
Concurred. I love this movie. Like it's a lot of fun. I remember watching it when it first came out at a friend's house, actually, when it first came out on DVD, that is. And the themes of it are what's funny though is watching some of the science fiction aspects coming to life, and you're like, ooh, what, like, are they prophetic? What's happening here? It's like Gene Roddenberry all over again. I'm like, I just feel uncomfortable.
I feel that.
Or we did.
All right, well, I'm going to jump into mine. And look, my next three are pretty much been big dogs on lists on other movie episodes, or even other types of episodes. And a couple weeks ago, we did book adaptations, and this is the best science fiction one out of that, and it's Jurassic Park. And
let's go
in hot with Jurassic Park. I had it on my book adaptations, Michael Crichton, and I love this movie. And I again, talking back in the day, I thought paleontology and things like that were much more significant in the world, and I really wanted to do that. I wanted to go and dust off bones and find things, but it takes a little spin on that. And I remember having like, gosh, just all the, like Godzilla, but I had like all these other like Tyrannosaurus Rex, and I had one book that just explained every single dinosaur known to man. And I'd be naming them off, and they're like, what are you talking about? And then this movie brought them to life, right? It's kind of like when we see other books or video games being brought to life on the big screen, and people get upset and they're like, that's not what I saw or what I wanted or how it was written. And to me, it's just like, yeah, but before this, I've never seen one. And I just loved it. That scene when they come out and they see
Alan, this species of Variformin's been extinct since the Cretaceous period. I mean, this thing is about this thing. What?
them all like running in the valley, the Brontosaurus and the Brachiosaurus and all those guys. And I just thought it was amazing. And the science fiction side of things, not to mention just the fact of the dinosaurs, but how they got the DNA and it turns into a mess.
Animals that went extinct millions of years ago, like dinosaurs, left their blueprints behind for us to find. We just had to know where to look. 100 million years ago, there were mosquitoes, just like today. And just like today, they fed on the blood of animals, even dinosaurs. Sometimes, after biting a dinosaur, the mosquito would land on the branch of a tree and get stuck in the sap. After a long time, the tree sap would get hard and become fossilized, just like a dinosaur bone, preserving the mosquito inside.
So then we talk about tough themes, right? Don't mess with nature. Here we go. We're going to bring these back, expecting nothing to happen. We're just going to make them all female, all male, or whatever. And of course, they're going to start figuring out how to multiply. And it went to do 3 amazing films, and then they just rebooted it, which I like the 3 new ones, basically, with Chris Pratt and all that. And so I'm going to go with, and I mentioned a ton of it. Look, if you want to hear everything, the stats and all that of this amazing movie, you can go back and check out book adaptations movie from 2-3 weeks ago. So anyways, my number my number 3, my TJ Jazzy Jeff, will be Jurassic Park.
Kirk, you made it the whole way. Did you even say Jeff Goldblum? Come on, man.
No, I didn't. I did say him quite a bit last time. I mean, yeah, dude. And gosh, what to me, he's like an icon. I love that guy.
He's become a meme. Like he's become this. I don't even know how it happened, but
he's a living meme.
He became a meme on the bottom shelf this past month.
So I actually, just briefly going off topic because you brought up the book, I actually listened to the audiobook while I was at work. That might have been a mistake.
Why? Well,
it gets really intense. Yeah. And I was not in an air. So someone walked in, I was like, hello. What's wrong? And they're like, are you okay? And I was like, I have anxiety right now.
This is one of the books I do have over here. Nice.
Dallas, you talked earlier about the Terminator video game. What about the Jurassic Park video game? Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
That was that one. Super fun.
That was a solid one. I love this movie though, too. Like I actually had a Jurassic Park themed birthday party as a kid. And like, dude, my parents, they went out for some, I don't know, it must have been like one of those milestone birthdays because like they got a blow up for the backyard with like a dinosaur blow up bouncy house. We had Jurassic Park. My school pictures that year was, of course, it's the cheesy 90s thing, but I had a Jurassic Park shirt with yellow shorts. It was, my mom still has a picture somewhere, guys.
Oh my gosh, I need that.
I just like the fact that you assume your mom didn't just do that. We both know that she will go to the nth degree for no reason.
No reason.
So now we're out car shopping, and it's probably a good chance that we get a Jeep. And the other day we're like looking at Jeeps, and one comes across and it is painted like the Jurassic Park vehicles, the Explorers. And I was like, yes. And my wife's like, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Best, and I hummed it for a second there, but one of the best film scores too.
Yeah.
That is
a great score.
Iconic.
Williams, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which was.
We could do a Rushmore of his stuff.
Just be careful on humming it on the show. We one of our first guests on the show was the crew of Comic Talk 616, which is another podcast that does comic book reviews, and they did a whole devotion for us on Jurassic Park, and at the end they hummed the theme together, and we got a copyright strike.
Oh my god!
On our YouTube channel.
For the humming.
Hopefully I'm tone deaf enough to where it didn't register. So.
Well, look, we've hit halfway on our mountain. And man, what a great show it's been so far. And I think it's time for us to take a little bit of a break and bring a science fiction historical commercial. We'll be right back.
Whoa, easy open Capri Sun. Now that's cool. Capri Sun, easy open liquid cool. Coming at you, Capri Sun by the pitcher. So whenever you want, you can make as much as you want. All natural Capri Sun drink mix.
Capri Sun. Liquid cool.
Welcome back to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more. Andy, if they've lasted this long, what should they do?
Last the rest of the way. But also, while you're doing that, you should definitely subscribe. I don't know why you're watching, an hour or whatever into the episode, and you haven't just clicked the button. It just one little click. It's easy. Leave a comment. Tell us how are we wrong so far. What do you disagree with?
We're all over the map, so there's something for somebody, I'm sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And-
so leave us your top 4 and let us know how we're doing and let us know your favorites. But Celeste, you're up. And it is time for Link. It's number 2. We're building up the second half of the mountain. Where are you going?
I am going with Alien.
Yeah.
Shocker!
Let's go.
Everyone's surprised.
Not so surprised.
I love that movie, and I love that franchise, with the exception of that one that we don't talk about. It's just such a great movie.
That's a kitty. That's a kitty. Come on, baby. Hey, I'm not gonna hurt you. Come on.
Alien is a fantastic movie. I had this as my number 4, and it ended up being my number 5 or 6. But it was on my Benjamins, namely because I had a feeling you were going to mention it. 1 and 2. My other 4 I just felt were more nostalgic to me because I didn't start watching Alien till a little later in life, because I remember watching them the first time. They scared the crud out of me, and I actually went and watched. I think I mentioned this in our episode. You mentioned Ripley. I went and saw Alien 3 in the theater.
Wow!
Back in the day, and I love that one in the sense just because they had the dog alien, and I thought that was the coolest thing. But yeah, I love this movie. I love the franchise. I love how it mixes in. They're trying to do prequels and everything, but they mix in with Predator. It mixes in, it brings them all in the same world. And man, what a great journey this takes you on if you kind of binge watch this, which I started the other night watching from number 1.
Nice. We binge watched it a couple years ago. We actually did a podcast series. We talked about the entire series. And it's interesting watching it because when you understand who the directors are, it explains so much why the movies are so different.
Ridley Scott, James Cameron, and then which are 2 powerhouses in this genre.
Right. And they only did 2 of the movies those first 2 movies.
So you're going Alien 1?
Yes, 1. Although I do love the prequels, which I know is not a popular opinion, but I just love them. I love the entirety of it.
Okay, man, I love that movie. Xenomorphs are crazy cool for aliens. All right,
Celeste has a Snell xenomorph.
I do. Hang on, I will get it for the people.
Oh, look at this!
My gosh,
that's scary.
Yeah,
imagine SpongeBob having that.
I've been having fun moving.
Scary.
I've been having fun.
No, that's Jeff, not Gary.
I love that.
You like this movie?
Oh yeah, I mean. How do you like get past just the image of the xenomorph, man? I mean, it's just.
How about?
Oh God!
No, no,
Don't touch it! Don't touch it!
Cool, one of the coolest. Yeah, that's like, yeah, everything about that super cool. The tongue like coming out with the like. Yeah.
All right, Dallas, you're up.
Yeah, so for my number 2, it's kind of a non-traditional, I guess, but it's a movie called Tenchi Muyo, and it's a anime from I can't remember when it's from. From 1996, and I have a lot of love for this. You guys know I'm an anime fan already, but this is one of the first anime movies I saw that they were like really well done. Because before I was like, okay, Voltron, it's TV anime, Dragon Ball, but this was like a feature-length film, and it was just so beautifully done. And 90s anime itself has a texture to it it's just beautiful to me. And I watched this movie. I know it was 2:00 in the morning. It was Sci-Fi Channel. I was recovering from surgery and on my foot, and it was on TV, and I'm watching it, and I was like, I'm enthralled. It was probably the pain meds, honestly, but watching this movie, like I was sucked into the story from the get-go, and it's all about this kid who named Tenchi Masaki and his whole family. There's depending on which version of the actual series you watch, is very important. And his mother is a very powerful being, and her family line had sealed away this bad guy thousands of years ago, and he escapes from this kind of like dark zone, and he goes back in time and kills Tenchi's mom. And so Tenchi starts to kind of phase in and out of reality. So his friends and him have to go back in time and try to figure out why she was, how she was killed, and how to save her. And there's this huge epic battle that takes place at the end, where Tenchi, his mom, and his friends have to come together to fight off this evil force.
I was pulling it up, and I have seen the picture of this blue-haired cat. Actually, I don't think it's blue. The chick, right?
Yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah, I don't know this one. Andy, do you know this one?
Yeah, man. Not at all.
You uncultured swine!
There's a series, Tenchi Moyo, and then there's a movie, Tenchi the Moyo.
Yep. Here it is.
Yeah. Tenchi Moyo in Love was the name of the movie.
Oh, I seen you do this. Didn't you? A couple months back. Oh, it was probably in the anime month, right? You probably did a little bit. Yeah, I remember when you said in love. I remember that. Nice. So I'm gonna put these on my list. I gotta go Metropolis, Tenchi Moyo. Gotta go watch them. Andy, you're up.
All right. This is a heavy hitter. This is one of the ones that is probably going to type in top sci-fi movies is going to come up. This is my oldest of all the movies that I'm listing today. Going back to 1982, with this one, and one of the classics, E.T. Phone Home. I got to go with E.T. man, Extraterrestrial. This is a great movie. I remember watching this. Now, again, this is a little bit. I was born in '89, so this came out a few years before I was born. But still watching this again as a kid. I have an uncle. I think I've shared this on here. Who's like five. I say five. He's I don't know, maybe 8-10 years older than me. Mm-hmm. So it's like that. It's almost like a cousin. But he was a big E.T. fan, and I remember watching that kind of stuff, that and the Goonies and all that kind of stuff. Like he really kind of introduced me to that whole genre, that era of movies. Anyway, and E.T. was one of those ones that I remember watching. I love the the style of E.T. and everything and how they brought that to the screen. I love that, it's a boy finds this thing, tries to hide it, and not share it with his parents. The classic scene, riding the bike. I mean, that's one of the most iconic cinema, scenes in cinema, right? I just remember being terrified of the government because of this movie. Like from an early age, not trusting the government and people in hazmat suits. I was like, I don't want nothing to do with them, right? They're going to take all my friends away.
Pretty much.
Is this a prophetic movie too? Like, well, anyway, we're going to get canceled from YouTube if I keep talking. But my point is, this is a great movie, man. Drew Barrymore early on in her career.
Who's fantastic in this movie, by the way.
Right. Man, just a great movie. Classic lines from this movie. I remember, and like as a kid, like putting a flashlight up to your finger or whatever, and you can kind of see it go through, your finger, and you would always, it's like E.T. Phone Home. I could do it, right? So this is one of the great sci-fi movies of all time. E.T. is my link.
Yeah, it's in a short list of my top 10. I had it in, had it out, had it in, had it out. Couple things. One, Yoda is in this, so that's really cool. Just yep, that's one thing. Two, like you, the government did kind of scare me, but that scene when ET's dying and the whole place is kind of like encapsulated in that like tent.
E.T. The boy's condition is stabilizing. His blood pressure is coming back up.
E.T.
And it was super sad. We talked about sad moments last week with Land Before Time and Lion King, deaths of the mothers and the fathers. This was kind of it was tear jerking. Like I was like really worried for E.T. Morris, what do you think about E.T.?
I actually have a kind of cool story. E.T. came out when my mom was 12, and then they re-released it into the theaters when I was 12. So I got to go see E.T. in theaters with my mom, which was hysterical because my mom forgot that the version we had at home was recorded off TV. So there was a few things she was like, I didn't remember this.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that funny? Like we go back and watch 80s films or like 70s, and you're like, wait, I don't remember that. And I was like, oh, well, maybe my mom didn't let me watch this version or something because I don't remember that.
PG-13 wasn't a thing.
All right, well, I'm going to jump into my link. This is not going to be a surprise. This is not going to be a surprise at all. I had this on in my action movies.
Oh.
But a couple weeks ago, and I'm going with, you mentioned it just a little while ago, Dallas, The Matrix.
Nice.
The Matrix. Listen,
I respect that decision.
I totally love this movie. When I talk about fandom, I mentioned in my action movies, those action movies were my top 5 favorite movies of all time at one time in my life, right? And so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my first Benjamin. This movie I've probably seen more than any movie ever in my life. I had the DVD in a short period where I didn't have a whole lot of DVDs, a whole lot of things when I was in the military, and that thing was on repeat because I didn't have cable. So I would just hit play, and this movie would play in the background as I was surfing the internet, doing my homework, eating, cooking, you name it. It was playing all the time. I love this film. I love the franchise. I love the new ones. I love the Animatrix. I love all about it. I love, for you guys, just give you a quick thing. Hacker, Neo, the hacker becomes the one, and he gets to peer into the Matrix with the pill. Red pill, blue.
You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Pill, Lawrence Fishburne, cool glasses, Trinity, this amazing idea. But basically the idea is that we are set in a alternative world and basically in these like incubators, and they're just, we're running as power batteries for the world of robots and things, and they're making us feel like we're in real life, but we're not.
Is the world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix.
And once he takes the pill, he gets to peer in, and man, it goes on a wild journey. And the classic green code and all that, and then Mr. Anderson and all that stuff. But yeah, I couldn't have it. Look, I didn't put it in the last episode, but the whole like leaning back, that was a big
Oh my
deal,
gosh.
right? Everybody tried doing that. And but yeah, the bending of the spoon, like, oh, and just the lady, was it Oracle? Was that her name? Gosh, she was so cool. But anyways, basically it's science fiction, but it has this like almost like fantasy wild feel, like modern urban fantasy type feel. Anyways, one of my favorite movies of all time. And Keanu Reeves. I mean, that's it. But yeah, my link, The Matrix.
That's the solid one. We did a whole month devoted to The Matrix back, I think, season 1 of Geek Devotions, maybe season 2. And I loved it. Was it season 2? Okay. And it's such a great, there's so many things you can pull from it. And up until the last movie when they try to continue the story, it was a great franchise. Like there's some stuff that you're like, okay, like the 2 and 3 got pretty murky. But it was still fun to watch, like the twins fighting on
That's
on
what
top
Andy
of the.
brought up last time.
I mean, that was epic, man. That was just, and then again the bending and like the slow motion. Every kid when they were in a swimming pool tries at one time to do all the slow motion stuff. Almost drowns himself going backwards in the water, but we're doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love these movies. I didn't watch them when they originally came out. I was an adult because the first scene, and I say the first scene I ever saw was when Neo is being ejected from the little pod, and it's Yui, and it's I just don't like gross things.
Right.
It's Alien, though.
That's different.
Yeah, that xenomorph, it can be pretty gross. That, I mean, just slobbering and everything.
The difference is that one time I was 12, and when I watched Alien, I was not.
Yeah, it's true.
Legitimately, there's a level of, if it's too gross, I just don't enjoy it.
Right. So we
animated.
posed the question last time with BJ.
Yeah.
Andy, you want to throw that at him?
So if you had the choice, is it the red pill or the blue pill?
I would get out of the Matrix.
I would get out.
You red pill. Okay.
Yep.
I would get out.
I had mentioned I would, if I was offered that right in the beginning, I'm definitely getting out.
Right.
4 or 5 films later, after going through it all, I might be like, gosh, maybe I should have just stayed in this thing.
Yeah. Find how they ended that.
Yeah.
Not counting the new one.
Yeah.
Also, continuing the theme that you've been running of anime, what about the Animatrix?
I love the Animatrix. I know it's controversial because like some of it like just wasn't good, but when you understand that it was like different film studios building stuff that was around the theme, I love that. I love anytime somebody is given the opportunity to take a franchise, take an idea, and just run with it. One of my favorite things that comic books have done, DC, was the Elseworlds series, which was they said, hey, take Superman and just do something. So you end up having like, what if Clark Kent landed in Gotham City instead of Kansas and was adopted by the Waynes? And what if Batman became the Green Lantern? Like all kinds of great stories. And so I like the Animatrix because of that, and I love seeing different animation styles take place. So interesting thing about the Matrix, that came out in 1999. When I was in the 5th grade, which was well before 1999, I had a dream. It's a vivid dream, and it freaked me out. I woke up and I told friends at school about this dream, about like I was asleep at my desk in the classroom, and I saw what I would now call a data cable coming from my head up into the sky, and like there was like no roof on the school, and everyone had all these little cables on the back of their head. I dreamed about the Matrix before it happened, and when it came out, I was like, was it a warning?
Did you see a black cat like twice?
No, but it was.
I love that, by the way. The glitch in the Matrix. With deja vu. That was a cool idea. That was. All right, so we're to the George. We're number 1. Your number 1 favorite science fiction film of all time. Celeste, you're up first.
I'm going to point out that I stated at the beginning that these were not necessarily in order of number.
Oh yeah. That's right.
are not going to appreciate my number one.
That's okay.
But I'm gonna say Galaxy Quest.
Nice. I was thoroughly expecting this to possibly be on Andy's, as well as Men in Black, and you are crushing it.
Thank God. Are you okay?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I've got Garignac staring me in the face right now. But you know what? I think I can take it.
Oh. Jason, we're gonna use the digital conveyor to get you out of there.
The digital conveyor?
Yes.
You mean I'm gonna get diced into cubes and set up there in a million pieces?
Right.
Well, you know what? I think I'll take my chance with Garignac.
I love that movie. It's just so quotable. Like, I ran
Sigourney Weaver.
Oh yeah, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah,
But I legitimately ran a 5K and I was dying because I didn't realize what a 5K was. And when I say run, I mean I was jogging with a little more bounce. That's a run for me. And so by like halfway through and I'm looking, I'm like, I could just cut across right here and make it to the end, right? I legitimately was just going, never give up, never surrender, never give up, never surrender. So Sigourney Weaver is great. I like Tim Allen. I think he's funny.
Alan Rickman.
Dude, I was about to say, like, this cast is intense, man. You got Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Tim Allen, Tony Shalhoub, Justin Long, Rainn Wilson.
I was about to say, you better say Rainn Wilson because that's your boy.
I thoroughly love that you picked it, and it actually came off my Benjamins because I am a fan of this one. So
this is a great pick. It really is a great pick, and I'm honestly I'm shocked it's not on Andy's, but that's cool. That's cool. Dallas, you're up.
Yes.
You're up to bat.
So my George is the very first sci-fi movie I ever saw as a kid, and
nostalgia. Love it.
It's nostalgia. It set a tone. It was the 1953 The War of the Worlds.
Nice.
This was my very first sci-fi I ever watched as a small child. It kind of freaked me out seeing the alien spaceships walk around and everything, but it was so beautiful. As I got older, I've grown to appreciate cinematography and just the work that went into it, especially if you can get your hands on the remastered version where they kind of boost the colors and everything like that. It is gorgeous to watch, and the story is fascinating. I've read a couple versions of the books. I've seen a few of the movies, even the Tom Cruise movie, and it is it's an interesting story about what happens when aliens attack and the adaptation from the radio drama. That's the fascinating aspect of the adaptation from the radio drama, which for years I thought the radio drama was just like this, and it was kind of, but the radio drama is like, if you ever listen to radio drama, it will freak you out. Like, it is really intense, but it's just a great story and just extremely well executed, especially back in like the 50s.
Yeah, I watched this with my dad.
Wow.
My dad's an older fella. He would be,
well, you're like 25, so he's like 50?
82 now, I think. 83. Anyways, but he loved the old films. He loved older films, and I watched this with him one time. And I remember discussing the radio, the radio drama, and for whatever reason, I just it's like slipped my mind, this movie and the radio and all of that. And I remember when Tom Cruise's movie came out, I was like, oh yeah, this is the movie that was that came out, and then they did the radio drama. But then, like, I remember being so backwards and how this all went down and all that. But I like this movie. I fought to try and figure a way to have that on the show today because I think it's iconic. It's like one of the best adaptations of science fiction, space, aliens arriving, war. It's got some really intense themes. Did you like the Tom Cruise version?
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
You kind of side talked it for a second.
It's well, I mean, it's most of the Tom Cruise movies where he's adapting classic movies have been kind of like The Mummy. That was a terrible adaptation of that classic film, but it wasn't a bad one. It was intense. It was interesting, but there was something special about this version from 1954. And it's like it really is a combination of the cinematography and the acting, and then when you realize, like in the 50s, this is like post World War II. We're getting into the Cold War era. There were villains and monsters in real life that people were creating in their minds of other countries. And then when you see these aliens come from another country, it really, for those people, it personified for them the fears that they had, much like what was happening with Godzilla. And maybe that says a lot that this is the kind of movies I enjoy watching, where it's people's fears. But Godzilla was the personification of the fears and the questions that took place of Hiroshima. And for the people who watched the War of the Worlds, this was the world can end very easily, and we have to learn to survive together.
I have a fun story about this book, or this book, and that's what I'm getting to. The movie, I was in 7th or 8th grade. I was in junior high. And I remember we had a project that we had to do for English where it was a book report, right? Just any standard book report. And I hated reading. Like I just was not, as a kid, I just didn't want to be forced, like, don't tell me what to read. You know what I mean?
Right.
You had to read these books. And some of them are good. Like I really enjoyed The Outsiders. That was one of my favorite. But I hated most other things. Like, but I remember we had to do this project where it was a book report, and it was a book report on a cereal box. So we had to make like a cereal box.
Yeah.
Like every side of it was like, this is the synopsis. The back is like an illustration. This is a whatever. It was really cool. But my teacher was so cool that instead of reading the book, because she knew that she's like, you're just not going to do it. Right. She gave me the option to read the graphic novel.
Oh, wow.
War of the Worlds. And I actually got to do my book report based on that. And it kind of like started like my love for some of that stuff and everything too. So it was a really cool moment. And I always think back to this. And I got to read this way and do a whole book report on it. But the movie, I've watched the classic one. It's great. I've watched, they've had multiple, since then too, obviously. And it's just so good, man. This is a great pick. I love it.
Nice. So we're celebrating that one for sure. Andy,
we've talked multiple of these movies that we've talked about today have had pretty star-studded casts. I don't know if many touch this one as far as the depth of people that are in this movie. And this movie came out in 1996. Okay. And I didn't necessarily go in order, but I always go back to this one. You guys know that I love comedy. It is my wheelhouse. And you mix that with sci-fi, and you get a movie that just pays homage to some of the classic sci-fi, elements. Kind of is satirical in a way a little bit, and it's actually directed by Tim Burton. And I'm going with Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks from 1996.
Let's go.
I love this. Tom Jones in this one. But dude, Jack Nicholson, Danny DeVito, Jack Black, Glenn Close, Pierce Brosnan, Michael J. Fox, Sarah Jessica Parker, Martin Short. I mean, like, that's just a few of them that I'm mentioning from this movie.
We come in peace.
They came in peace.
We come in peace. We come in peace.
Obviously, it's this whole, like, it's just this amazing they Jack Nicholson is the president, right? And they were being attacked by aliens from Mars, and they shoot, their heads got goo in it and everything. It's just like everything that's like endearing about like these campy kind of just whatever sci-fi movies all in one, but now you get it in 1996. Man, it's a great movie. It's another one that I watch with my dad a lot, and we always make the sounds of the aliens that the aliens make. But I love that like they play Tom Jones, like it's not unusual, like they're playing all this music or whatever, and their
stupid song gets stuck on your head, man.
Their heads are exploding with everything, dude. It's such a good mix of comedy, science fiction. I love the like CGI of the aliens, the big old eyes and everything. Yeah, it's just you know, I watch the movie and I just enjoy it from the beginning to the end. It's just classic enjoyment the whole time.
I'm pretty sure we made that a top shelf film in the bottom shelf podcast. And it was so much fun, and it is one of those ones that like there's so many stars in it, and then it's almost a blur. You have to rewatch it a couple times and go, oh my gosh, that's who. Like the fact that Nicholson plays like 4 different characters in the entirety of the movie. It's like it is hysterical all the way through.
You talked about Hollywood Video where you worked at that. I think I rented this movie for a year. Like I would rent it and watch it a bunch of times, and then
you had the late charges.
Like I just kept renting it. I kept going back.
Before the show started, you brought up campy, you kind of like slapstick, kind of B-rated type movies, and this was on a short list of ones I was thinking maybe had a shot. But this one I was thinking of Mom and Dad Save the World, and I was also thinking of Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Rotten Tomatoes or whatever the heck, Killer Tomatoes.
Killer Tomatoes.
Yeah. I was like, okay, is he going to go with any of this stuff? And I'm glad you brought up Mars Attacks.
I may have to bring you on, Andy, because we reviewed several of those movies that he just named.
Yeah. So I was figuring you were going to go somewhere in that route, man. And I'm not shocked. This is a great movie. I love the aliens. They're kind of like a meme now as well. And it does have a pretty star-studded cast. So this is not shocking. Well, I mean, it's shocking that this is the only one that you had, but E.T., then this. Yeah. The fact that this is above E.T. Okay. So
hey, I'm actually for that. I didn't give my thoughts on E.T. It's iconic. There are scenes in there that have stuck with me for the rest of my life. And there's some great stuff to quote, but I was bored with ET, and so I'll take Mars Attacks over ET.
Yeah, so I would say, look, I would second that. I felt I was bored younger, but I've rewatched it, and I was totally into it. Like I was like,
maybe that's my problem. I don't think I've seen ET since I was like 6 or 7.
Yeah. So I mean, I rewatched it not long back, but. Man, I'm going to jump into my George then. You know, great pick. We're going to end this mountain, right? We're going to end it with style. It's my George. And of course, I'm going with George Lucas. But probably not the one you're thinking of. I'm going with Return of the Jedi.
All right.
I am going with episode 6, right? That was my favorite of all time. Many go Empire. I could have even actually, we were kind of chit-chatting in the comments that you gave me a couple numbers that I shouldn't pick there, Dallas. And,
I didn't say that.
Yeah. But Force Awakens has something really big for me with my kids, because getting a chance to go watch that with my kids was just
I respect that.
Awesome. And I love, bringing back the cast. I kind of wish it would have went a different direction. That's a whole nother podcast. But number 6 for me, the speeder bikes and the Ewoks and all the things that happen in this movie. We now already know Darth Vader is kind of lore and history and being Anakin, and kind of we've kind of learned some of those things. But this one, to me, Jabba. I mean, there are so many amazing things that happen in Return of the Jedi that I just love. I had all the toys. I had the 3-tree Ewok playset and the speeder bikes and all that. I mean, I love this movie. This movie is what made me start loving Star Wars, right? And yes, it is a space opera. Yes, it is a fantasy. There's all kinds of things, but this is to me, them and Star Trek fight for one of the most iconic franchises in the science fiction world. And so many cool things. I mean, Mandalorian. So much stuff has come from this franchise. And to me, the king of it all, the George of it all, the one that I want to rewatch over and over again is Return of the Jedi. And so I'm going with that as my number one. I would welcome Empire Strikes Back. I would welcome New Hope. I would welcome Revenge of the Sith. I mean, there's so many that are just really good. This is my favorite. So,
would you welcome the Phantom Menace?
See, I love Phantom Menace as much as it's hated, and we kind of chatted down here. It gets the most hate because of Jar Jar, right? But I love the racing of the pod racers. I loved all of that. I think Anakin. I wish he would have been younger in the later movies. Then he kind of like jumped from like boom to like. Yeah, whatever. I wish I would have grown on him a little bit more and done some other stuff before Hayden came in. But yeah, I don't hate this movie so much. One reason is because I love the fact that they brought it back. And so like the last movie I had seen was Return, and I was like so pumped to be in it. And again, I don't hate a lot. I'm not, again, I mentioned Siskel and Ebert just a second ago. I am not a critic. I want to sit and just enjoy a movie, and seeing the things I love from my childhood back on the screen was awesome. Yeah, Jar Jar was silly, but I didn't hate it, especially now where it's gone now. Like there are so many things in this world. There's so many planets. There's so many crazy stuff. It isn't shocking that there's some stupid aliens that we don't like. So yeah, but I love fantasy. I don't love Phantom Menace, but I like it. Right. It mentions some really cool things too.
Some of the music comes Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I do love.
Well, Duel of the Fates is
there. You go. Darth Maul is way up my list on baddies.
Oh yeah, especially in the Clone Wars version of
now
Darth Maul.
With Clone Wars and Rebels and all that, and what they've done with him, fantastic.
I'm looking around somewhere in my house. I can't find it right now. I have the screenplay of Phantom Menace.
Wow.
Yeah, I have it's a book printout. When I was a kid, when Phantom Menace came out, I was having surgery, and one of the first things that happened right after out of surgery was my cousin picked me up, and he took my sister and I to the theaters to watch the Phantom Menace. And it was that time frame was a lot of stuff. My family was going through divorce. We were homeless. There was a lot of stuff happening, and so I have a lot of as much as I'll give flack for Phantom Menace, I have a lot of love for it too, because it was a great. Just let me stop and get away from everything else. It was actually my first Star Wars in theaters.
Yeah, I this was my second. Return was my first, but I saw this with BJ, I think, who I went and saw Matrix with as well, who was on the show 2 weeks ago when I was at Cannon Air Force Base. This was one of those movies that came out around the same time as Matrix. So
very cool.
Yeah, awesome. So there we go, man. There's our top 4 and nothing more, but we have one more segment to finish off, and we're going to do all about our Benjamins, which is going to be a rapid fire, another set of 16. Now that we have 2 guests, 16 honorable mentions. So let's get into our Benjamins, all about the Benjamins of science fiction movies. All right, friends, we are going to jump into our Benjamins, and you guys know how it is, 16 more, and we're going to rapid fire snake draft. And Celeste, you're up first. What would be an honorable mention that we need to let the Rushmore community know about?
Inception.
Inception, great.
That one. You have to watch it multiple times, and it will it never stops blowing your mind.
Your first pick, great pick. Dallas, you're up, man.
Yeah, coming off Star Wars, Spaceballs. You got to watch Spaceballs. I love that. I watched it a lot as a kid. It's hysterical. The Schwartz was just...
So good.
This was on my comedy. Back a couple weeks ago. I had it on comedy.
Let's go.
Yep. Let's go. All right.
My first Benjamin. You mentioned Arnold Schwarzenegger earlier, and I'm going to go with my favorite of his, Total Recall.
Nice,
dude.
Favorite scenes One of my favorite scenes is when the lady's in the airport and she says, how long are you going? 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It's crazy.
That freaked me out. When he puts the thing up, pulls the thing out of his nose.
Gosh, it's so crazy. Total Recall.
Nice. Great pick. Great pick. So look, I'm going to stay with Arnold Schwarzenegger and I'm going to go with Predator.
Oh.
For my first one off the list. And my number 2 movie off the list, I'm going to go with the original Blade Runner.
Oh, yes.
That one was good.
I have to pick this one because it's near and dear to me. Animated, we're going The Iron Giant.
Respect.
I thought that might show up last week, to be honest.
Vin Diesel. It's a Vin Diesel movie. So
yeah.
Right.
All right. My next one is going to be Fifth Element.
Oh, I was hoping that would make it back around.
Love that movie. Corbin Dallas Multipass. That is such a great movie. I watched it all the time as a kid. I was one of the first movies I ever bought when I started working at a video store. It's a great movie.
That movie is so underrated. It made it on our action films in the comments. Dude, I was hoping that could make it back. All right.
I'm gonna say Predator 2.
Nice.
Ooh, I don't like Predator 1. I think it's boring and sweaty until like the last 15 minutes.
That's the tagline for the movie, boring and
sweaty. Yeah. Until the last 15 minutes when the Predator actually shows up. So that one is mine. And then my next one is Pitch Black.
Oh, yes.
So good.
That's the reason why I married you.
Oh, good.
I love that whole franchise.
Dallas, what you got?
So my third one is I have to do it because I did the anime version, Metropolis, which actually had the poster behind me for the original Metropolis. Sweet. It is so good. I actually have the version. They've lost most of it over the years, and they've just now reconstructed most of it. I think there's 15 minutes left of the movie that's missing to history, but it's such a great movie, and I recommend if you're a sci-fi nut, you need to watch it.
Nice. All right. I'm gonna do it. It's one of the classics, and I'm gonna go with The Planet of the Apes.
I'm glad you did it.
Yeah.
Which one?
I mean, we'll go Mark Wahlberg's Planet of the Apes. No, we'll do
Charlton Heston or the newer ones.
Yeah, we'll go way back, man. If we're gonna pay homage to it, let's go Charlton Heston. Let's go way back. Yeah.
Nice. Good. He played that part like he was on Broadway.
He's played every part like that.
No!
He did a milk commercial. It's like milk.
No. All right. So my last two picks. All right. I'm gonna go with number 1. I'm gonna go with one of my favorite movies in the dystopian world. I'm gonna go with Snowpiercer.
Oh my goodness.
Freaking. All right.
Willy Wonka Part 2 is the other title. That's the other title for it.
Dude, I love this movie. And my second one, my last one, we're gonna go Jeff Goldblum, The Fly.
Nice.
I love this. I love that. All right, where do I go for my final one? Because I actually have 3 that I can pick from on my list. 1984 is going to be my last. So 1984. This is another one that you're like, oh my gosh, are we living in this? So, great movie.
Absolutely. So my final one, I'm conflicted because I have 2 more on my list. I love both of these movies, but I'm going to go with Ghost in the Shell, the anime, the original anime. It's a great anime.